All right, hello everybody. This is Miss Martin or Math Martin with Math with Maurice. It's been a while since we've done a math video on this channel, so hopefully we will get into gear and do a lot more math videos and get back into doing some of the geometry lessons, which I know a lot of you like and have been following along with. So one thing that I've noticed with my students this year is that they are struggling to find the slope between 2 points. So I thought I would do some 3 different types of problems that kind of review some of the complications that people run into when they're trying to find the slope between 2 points. So feel free to pause the video at any moment if you need to, or you can try to see if you can calculate the slope and then resume the video and check with me. So first off, let's just talk about what slope is. So slope is the way that a graph or a linear, well, usually we talk about linear graph slope, but it's the way that a line like rises or falls, like so how much it goes up and over, or how much it goes down into like the left or right. So it just depends on the equation. So a way to find the slope or the change in values between points is to use this equation. So we use m to represent slope. You've probably seen that plenty of times in your math class. Then you're going to do the change in the y's over the change in the x's. So we have our second y value minus our first y value over our second x value minus our first x value. So you're going to do the change in y's over the change in x. So we're going to see how much something changed between our 2 points. So this slope formula can be used for any set of points. So let's do this first one. So what I usually tell my students to do is to label their coordinates, so it's a lot easier to use the formula. So this first point would be x1, y1, and then you have x2, y2. So each one needs an x and a y. And then we just substitute the values in the correct order into our slope formula. So our slope, so our y2 is -4 minus our y1 is 2 over, then our x2 is 1 minus our x1 is 0. So usually I've noticed students don't tend to have too much of a problem plugging it or substituting the values into the formula. It's the simplifying that tends to throw people off, especially on these problems we're going to do down here when there's more negatives around. So -4 minus 2 more gives you -6, and then 1 minus 0 is just 1, and then anything divided by 1 is just itself. So that means this, so the slope between these 2 points is -6. Now, you can usually simplify it down to this, like that's the answer, but sometimes I know it's easier for students to keep them as a fraction, so you can keep in mind that this top number is telling you how much to go up or down, and the bottom number is telling you how much to go left and right. So this would mean to go down 6, and then you're going to go right 1. So if you're graphing, that always helps to keep in mind that top part is up or down, bottom part is left or right. Okay, so let's try this next one. See if this marker works here. All right, so we've got our x1 and our y1, and then x2, y2. All right, so we have m equals, so our y2, so we're using our still same slope formula. So y2 is -3, and then subtracting y1 is 3. Then on the bottom we have x2 minus x1, so x2 is 5 minus, and then x1 is -5. Okay, so what I tell my students is you just follow the formula and just plug in or substitute the numbers into the spots. Then you can deal with any crazy simplifying so that we don't forget negatives. So on the top, -3 minus 3 more is -6. And then down here, a negative times a negative changes this to be positive. So you actually have 5 plus 5 down in the bottom. So we get -6 over 10. So technically that's the slope, but we should simplify our fractions. So since these are both even numbers, we can divide by 2. So negative 6 divided by 2 would be negative 3, and 10 divided by 2 would be 5. So that means that this slope is going down 3 and then right 5. So the thing that usually throws students off with this problem is this section right here, the two negatives. So I always remind my students that when you're doing slope formula, you're always finding the difference because you're trying to find the change in the y's and the x's. So you always have subtraction, but the only time subtraction would change is if the x1 or the y1, so whatever your second term is, if it's already a negative, you're going to be subtracting a negative, which then turns it to a positive. But I like to make them write negative, negative so that they see that it's going to be positive, because if you don't do that, they tend to just leave one negative and then it causes it to be the wrong answer. All right, so that's what happens on that type of problem. All right, so let's look at this last one. So we have x1, y1, x2, y2. So we do our slope formula. So y2 minus y1, so we have 4 minus, and then y1 is negative 3. And then x2 minus x1, so we have 10 minus 9. So this problem, our double negative happens up in the numerator. So a negative and a negative make a positive. So this is really 4 plus 3. And then 10 minus 9 gives you 1. So 4 plus 3 is 7 over 1, which just equals 7. So this means this slope is going up 7, right 1. Okay, so hopefully that helped to go over slope. Feel free to comment any questions or if you're confused on any part of the problems. And hope to see you all in the next one.